Hello, world. It is the Seahawks Fan Table Podcast. I'm Sam. With me, as always, I've got Zeb on deck and Ross. Gentlemen, how are you guys? How are you guys doing today?
Good. How are you?
Good. Hey, apologies. We're starting a little bit later live, but most people are going to hear this on SoundCloud or YouTube anyway, so not a big deal. But it's Wednesday. It's football. It's Seahawks season, and still the middle of summer, so got a lot to talk about.
Lots.
Tons.
Finally something to talk about.
It's been pretty slow. We've got a couple announcements that we've been working on, along with the stuff we'll talk about today. You want to start with the announcement, or we want to wait later on?
Start with the announcement.
All right.
Announce it.
So
You finally got your new haircut, right?
actually, you know what? I actually did get a haircut. True, Bill. It's looking pretty sharp. It's too hot for longer hair, so not that my hair is that long, but anything to escape the heat is a good thing. But yeah. So we have a special announcement. We have an updated website and forum that we've launched. So we have another site. It's called Hawkscast. You can find it at hawkscast.com or forum.hawkscast.com. And what it is, it's a community for Seahawks fans, much like us. We're from all over the place. We love Seahawks. We're friends because of that, not only because of Seahawks, but also outside of that. And we want to help people bridge those gaps. We've had Maddie Brown from the 3-Step Drop podcast. We talk with Coleman. We talk with all these other Seahawks fans that we've met online. And we want to try and find ways to connect. So the forum, the website, that's the goal. We'd like for you guys to check it out. So if you have a chance, it's forum.hawkscast.com. Zeb, do you want to explain why we went with Hawkscast?
Well, if I remember correctly, it was a combination of because we're doing a podcast, and then also because a cast is a group of hawks.
That's correct.
Right? Did I win?
You did win. You win. You get to stay. You get to stay in the tribe. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Not voted off today. Ross, do you have anything else that you would like to talk about the additional project that we're doing before we get into the podcast?
I think that just about covers it. I hope everybody comes and joins. And lots of opportunity for banter. Obviously, we talk mostly about football, but there's lots of other things to talk about there. Politics, nerding out, other NFL stuff that's non-Seahawks, because apparently there are 31 other teams. Feel free to talk about that. Feel free to talk about soccer if you must, baseball. Anything's welcome.
Yeah, Zeb, you just watched the Gold Cup today, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I've been talking heavy Gold Cup over at the old Hawkscast lately.
So if you're into soccer or football, as some would say, definitely check that out. But we're here to talk about NFL football, and it's training camp. Training camp starts this weekend. This is going to be.
Teams have already started, right?
Yeah, some people have reported, but the Seahawks are opening their training camp to the public at the VMAC this Sunday.
Woohoo!
And this is going to be weird because this is going to be like the first training camp that I haven't gone to with Ross in like years.
Yeah,
but
I'm not going this year. I usually go there as much as I think last year I went to 6 different ones. The year before I went to 4 different. I usually write up reports, but this year I'm not going because I did my summer trip to that area early. Congratulations, Jesse and Mickey, by the way. My early shout out. I was over there for their wedding. That's why I'm missing training camp. What a sacrifice.
Big sacrifice. Huge. Bigly a sacrifice. But yeah, training camp starts this weekend, and I know there are a lot of like longtime Seahawks fans that remember Cheney Seahawks training camp, and now it's at the VMAC, and it's definitely a different feel from the people that I've talked to and the people that I've read write about their experience in the VMAC versus what they see now. The thing for me about training camp is it feels like the kickoff to football. It feels like, okay, we're in July, it's going to happen here at the end of the month, but football's just around the corner. This is like the greatest way for me to finally kind of get my football feelings going.
I think this is when I start to order any new jerseys. I'm gonna order for the year as well. Training camp opens. I'm like, I gotta get a new jersey for training camp. So yeah, and then you start getting your fantasy football activated. This is the time of year, man.
This is the time. Mock drafts are happening right now.
I've never been a huge training camp guy. Like I kind of don't really start to get excited until after about the third preseason game or so.
I'm gonna put forward a hypothesis, and I'm gonna say you're not a training camp guy because you've never been. I wasn't a training camp guy until the one day I just decided to go by chance because I was going to be in town. Went to one, and I've been addicted ever since.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You've never gone, go, man. Like, next year for sure, all three of us will go.
Well, I think I've been saying that now for 2 years.
Yeah, but
year for sure.
I give it a gunpoint by next year. Yeah. No, but it's really good. Anybody who's listening hasn't gone. I really recommend it. It's such a good time. And it's not for the hardcore fans. Some people think like, oh, I really wouldn't know what I'm watching. It's always fun, even if you don't understand some of the drills. By the end of the practice, they usually do some 7-on-7s or 11-on-11 drill, like scrimmages and just seeing the energy, and it's a really good time.
I think what's cool about training camp is if you're really hardcore into it, there are definitely things that you can kind of get a feel for, you get a look for. One of the earliest training camp memories that I have with Ross is I remember when we saw Charlie Warthurst and Matt Hasselbeck in camp. And the thing we noticed was, okay, well, they're both throwing to the ball to the same area. The difference is one's throwing it kind of on a line and one's throwing it like on a high balloon arc. And if you're familiar with either of the quarterbacks, you have a pretty good guess of who it is. But it's those kind of things that you pick up and you normally wouldn't see until game time. So it's one of the really cool things that I think that if you really are interested in football, it's worth the opportunity to go out. It's really inexpensive. It's just a lot of time, a lot of waiting, because you got to take a bus out there. But it's really cool.
It's also cool to kind of get a sort of an inside scoop on certain like we were just saying, like you get an inside scoop on who you think might be good. And things like that. I mean, like some people immediately just stand out. Some position groups, it's kind of meaningless to watch. You really can't tell what the offensive line is going to be like in a training camp session. But when you're watching the defensive backs or the linebackers, you can see who's flying around and things like that. It's really good.
Yeah, it's really cool. But we have other things we want to talk about. So really quickly, a couple of off-season things because this is our pre-season and our pre-training camp podcast. Couple of things. A new report came out about CTEs. So 110 out of 111 former athletes had displays of CTE, which is concussions. Colin Kaepernick still not unsigned. He made an appearance at the VMAC earlier in the offseason. There's no holdouts this camp. Everyone is reporting. All rookies are signed. All vets are here. There's some questions about, maybe for 2018 free agents, but we'll talk about that in the future. But ultimately, football's back. Do you guys have any thoughts about those ideas before we get into our core topics today?
I think I was rooting pretty hard for us to sign Kaepernick to be Russell's backup. But I realized pretty quickly how unrealistic that is because he's not – I don't know. To me, he's not really at that stage yet where he's – probably ready to just come in and be somebody's backup. Like that guy could probably start for 10 teams. And so I don't put it on the Seahawks for not signing him. Like he wants a starting job and that's just not going to happen here. But some of these other teams that are hurting for quarterbacks, he should be in camp with one of those teams, in my opinion.
What about you, Ross?
Yeah, RG3 got to work out. Is that right? RG3 got to work out with the Chargers earlier this week, and I think that really finally kind of. I mean, people aren't going to like this, but I think that kind of dissolved the illusion or the delusion or the theory that it's purely about quarterbacking ability, and that's why he doesn't have a job. I mean, obviously he's not what he was a few years ago, but I agree he's better than a lot of people out there. And if you RG3 is quite a similar player. But Kaepernick, for example, doesn't get hurt when he runs, unlike RG3, who's never learned to protect himself. And Kaepernick's actually accomplished more on the football field than RG3. I don't even hate RG3 like some people do. But Kaepernick has done more. He's a similar type player. And when you start saying like the RG3 is still, you're going to work him out, but you're not going to work at Kaepernick, then it gets really, really hard to say like it's purely football.
Yeah, my view on the whole thing is, once the first major injury happens, he's going to get signed right away. Joe Flacco of the Baltimore Ravens, he's going to be out for like anywhere from 1 to 6 weeks based upon reports right now. And he's not going to get a look there because Baltimore doesn't need a long-term quarterback. But the first quarterback that's out for the whole year, Kaepernick's going to get signed. There's no way his talent is going to be put down and put aside. He's too talented for the NFL to let that slide.
I don't know, man. I think because I don't even think it's like fan bases decisions. I think it's a bunch of like old, really, really rich people in a room deciding things like that. And Seattle really is the ideal spot for him. I really don't know a town. You can't. There's no way he's ever gonna. Like, I don't care if Ben Roethlisberger gets hurt. Kaepernick's not going to sign in Pittsburgh. They're not. It wouldn't fly with their ownership. It wouldn't fly with whatever. I mean, and plus, here's the other thing. He's not really like. And like, I got to say this. And like, I said this about him last year. Like, you can have your movement. That's great, but you got to do things the right way. If you want to work in the NFL, you got to do things the right way. You got to understand. Like right now, people have a lot of doubts about you, and you need to be. Even if it's just an image, perception matters. And if you're spending your entire offseason not working out and you're doing what people consider to be your sort of side projects with social movements and things like that, or, which I think probably long-term are much more important anyway, that's great. I agree with it. But again, if you still want to have an NFL career, people have to see you completely committed to that. But he chose to be over in these other places. So again, I'm not saying it's a bad choice as far as a human being. But if you want people to sign you to an NFL career, you have to show them the NFL is the most important thing in your life right now. And it doesn't. If you don't want to, like I say, it might still be. But if people don't want to think that that's what you're like, then you're giving them ammunition to further back up that viewpoint.
Don't disagree. Yeah.
I mean, if you really wanted to be on an NFL roster, you wanted to be in Hawaii working out with a bunch of receivers, right? You wanted to be in Montana working out with a bunch of receivers. You wanted to be doing something like that. Not tweeting about your latest Egyptian adventure.
Yeah, but to the same point, you don't need to hear about RG3 doing those kind of things to get invite to camp. You don't need to hear about Brandon Hoyer or Ryan Fitzpatrick.
But here's the thing.
But the assumption is they already care. They don't have anything that's separating or stopping them from already being in that category. So I see what you're saying.
Have you ever heard about RG3 doing anything that wasn't football related ever?
Sucking at football?
Well, that's football related though.
In his case, it's not
doing anything that's not connected to the football field, right? And like, again, I'm not of that viewpoint that football players only have to be that. I mean, like. I'm old, man. Like in the 70s, even still, when I was a kid, players actually had other part-time jobs in the off-season still. I don't think that you only have to be about football. But unfortunately, a lot of people disagree with me. And those people sign the paychecks, so. Yeah.
Like I said, there's still a ton of camp left. There's going to be a ton of injuries. It will remain to be seen. Zeb, final thoughts before we jump to our topics?
No, I think that's all I wanted to talk about.
Zeb is growing cornrows as we speak right now in solidarity with Colin Kaepernick.
I'm taking a knee.
All
I'm
right.
playing the Star Spangled Banner and purposely taking a knee.
All right.
Background.
Well, let's start it off. Let's talk about topic number one. So we're talking about biggest camp battles. I think this is a really unique offseason for the Seahawks because it's been low-key. Was some really early chatter at the beginning of the year, but for the most part, it's been pretty quiet for like the last month. Once the last OTAs finished and they had 6 weeks of time off in between, there's really not been much of a peep.
No arrests?
No arrests. Taylor Boykins had some trouble. We'll see about that. And he comes up.
That wasn't the 6 weeks, was it? That was before that, I think.
It was in the pre-6 week period. But we have some things that I think right now are not really defined. Offensive line, running back, the receivers, second through fourth wide receiver, the right cornerback opposite Richard Sherman, the nickel cornerback, and the backup quarterback position. A lot of these are holdovers from previous years, and some of them are kind of new. Some of the things I think we're always kind of worried about. But for you, Ross, of these big camp battles that we're going to see, like, which one are you most interested in? What are you going to be looking at when you're watching preseason game, when you're looking for Seahawks news?
Can I choose two?
You can. It's multiple choice.
Multiple choice. I'm going to go down the list, then, man. I'm most interested in defensive back, especially cornerback, right cornerback. That's I'm sort of obsessing about that because how that seems to be a little bit of a drama every year for us. And I don't even know who I'm pulling for. I'm just kind of just hoping somebody just really distinguishes. I think I kind of want like Nico Thorpe or Elliott to kind of come out of nowhere. I don't want it to be Lane. I think Lane is better in the slot, and I don't really like the idea of like he's out there, but he moves into the slot. No, I want him in the slot. So I'm really, really interested in that. The running back position, I have two. Yeah, I think a lot of people are kind of like me, and they kind of want Rawls to grab that, but we know that they brought in Lacey for a reason, and Lacey might be the guy. And we're interested to see how the whole three-headed Hydra is going to work, man, because we got Procise as well, and he obviously showed a lot. So I'm interested in how that division of labor is going to work out. Backup quarterback, it's hard to get excited about that, but I'm curious, considering how last year went. As far as OL goes, man, I kind of the offensive line, I'm still in Funt's bandwagon, and people say that between your first and your second year, that in between periods where people tend to make during their career the most progress. So I think Fant's going to come in they said he's 25 pounds heavier, and he's got a year under his belt, and he's going to have a full training camp again. I think it's going to be solid, and I'm looking forward to that.
You have definitely been on the Fant bandwagon since like day one.
Day one, man. Day one. That's an awesome story, because if he actually succeeds and he becomes even like decent, it'll be one of the greatest stories of all time. That kind of story. I just forgot his name. I'm getting old, man. It's kind of, who's the tight end for the Chargers? The old guy.
Antonio Gates.
Yeah. Okay. So other than that, Fant would be like the biggest similar story to that of all time. Where, like, you really have no football experience. You just come in and you're a football player all of a sudden. I think it'd be an awesome story.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Zeb, what about you? Do you have any care about any of these camp battles coming up?
Well, I certainly have care. I hope things go one way or another, I guess, but I don't have any particular insight to who's got the best shot at winning any of these jobs. I think as far as backup quarterback goes, I don't really care because we don't have anybody on our roster that's going to give us wins other than Russell Wilson at quarterback. So we just have to go ahead and hope that he just stays healthy as he has for pretty much his entire career, healthy enough to play. As far as the other ones go, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. My hope is that people win jobs by being surprisingly good and not the default because everybody behind them isn't good enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what I really would like to see. I would like to see guys like Paul Richardson, Rawls, and like you said, Thorpe, Elliott, some of the young guys that we drafted get spots on this roster in starting positions because they're good enough, because they're really good. You know what I mean? That's what I want to see. I don't want to see us going into week one of the regular season with doubts because some guy won a job by default because nobody else seemed like they could do it. So yeah, I want to see some clear winners at these questionable positions, guys who really are going to give us a chance to take this franchise back to that next level.
I think for me, the biggest camp battle, it almost has nothing to do with the player. It kind of goes to your point, Zeb, that you don't want people to win a roster spot by default because no one else is good. You just kind of happen to get it. But health, to me, is the biggest battle that the Seahawks are going to face this year. You know, for the most part, in the Pete Keller era, there have been major injuries, but nothing as bad as last year. And now we're seeing kind of age starting to creep up and play a really big impact. And it's evident throughout all of these positions that we're looking at. Offensive line, there were injuries at Jermaine Ifedi. He didn't start at the beginning of the year. He ended up being a start at the end of the year, but he didn't play as good as he could. Injuries at running back position really hurt the Seahawks, that they had to rely on a guy that they eventually cut mid-season in Christian Michael. The second through fourth wide receiver spot, there's injuries to so many of their guys and just poor years. And then the right cornerback, you know, Deshaun Shead got hurt at the end of the year. They were trying so many different things. Even Jeremy Lane, even though he was the nickel for most of the year, he wasn't available the whole time, and then we had to have our backup quarterback play more so than we've ever seen. So to me, health and injuries are really what's going to help define this year. Much to your point, Zeb, I really do hope that when everyone's healthy, we will really see the cream rise to the crop. Richard Sherman always talks about no one practices as hard as the Seahawks do in practice. This is evidence when Michael Bennett and Jermaine Ifedi are getting at each other's throats in practice and have to be pulled apart, and one has to get kicked out of camp for that day. That's kind of what I am hoping we see. I don't want anyone to get injured, but that fire, that desire, because I think they are starting to feel this run maybe kind of slowing down. Not as a whole, but for a lot of those guys on the defensive side, they're all in their late 20s. They can't expect to be all pro, year in, year out. I think they all think they will and they all want to be, but time has shown that's a really difficult thing. So that's my biggest camp battle. Injuries will play the biggest role in determining that. In offensive line, in running back, wide receiver, in the secondary, and even at the backup position. That's my 2 cents.
Before we move on, can we discuss the wide receivers real quick? None of us really talk about that as a main point, but it's an interesting position battle just because there's, do they keep 5 or 6, and there's so many legitimate people that you might want to keep. There's some interesting stories there, right? Sua Grayson and apparently Kenny Lawler's come back. Sam, do you remember watching Kenny Lawler last year in training?
Oh yeah, I've got a video clip of him making this great sideline catch, like fully contorted, like he turns left and then turns his body right to catch a ball flying out of bounds.
Right, but I mean, the dude weighed about 111 pounds last year.
Soaking wet.
Yeah, I mean, apparently he's added on some weight, and like some people are saying, I was reading Field Goals. I'll give them a shout. I was reading Field Goals a couple days ago saying he may have a better shot this year than he had last year because he's put on a lot of weight. But again, there's some interesting players to think about there.
I think for the second, third, and fourth spot, it's a competition between Curse, Lockett, and Richardson, and they're all coming off of injury except for Richardson. He's been mostly injured his career. Curse just having a bad year. It will be interesting to see who slots in where. But for all those other guys like Darbo, Cyril, Kenny Lawler, Kevin Williams, those are all guys fighting for 5th, 6th, and potentially 7th spots. That will be interesting.
Not going to keep 7. They only keep 5. Last year they kept 6.
Yeah,
you have Jimmy Graham. You're not going to keep 7.
But we got to keep Jimmy Graham into block.
Yeah,
so he can't really be a receiving threat too often.
I think what we'll see is once training camp comes in and whoever gets playing time with the backup quarterback, those are guys that are really going to be fighting for that, 4th through 6th, 5th, 6th, 7th spot, depending on how many they keep.
I'm rooting for Richardson, man, because he showed some real flashes there at the end of the year. I wish he wasn't so thin.
Fragile.
He's just
fragile.
Yeah, it's almost like you have to start Curse because he's the only guy with some girth, with some
meat on his bone.
Yeah,
like Tanner McAvoy.
Tanner McAvoy is awesome. I think he's a great number 4 or number 5. He's practically a coach on the field.
Yeah, it's a big thing, man.
Yeah.
I'm really intrigued by the whole thing. Like Doug Baldwin, obviously, and Tyler Lockett are locks. After that, there's certain favorites, but I wouldn't say they're locks. I mean, Jermaine Kearse, you'd think, but Paul Richardson. I mean, Darboh.
I like Darboh, man. I'm rooting for Darboh. Kearse is just he's there until somebody just takes his damn job from him. Pretty much. Nothing against the guy. I like the guy, but
yeah,
I get the sense Russell Wilson does some advocating for him as well, though. I think Russell Wilson really likes him as a sort of security blanket.
He likes to throw to him, that's for damn sure.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're Russell Wilson, when you throw those 50-50 balls, they're not a 50-50 ball when it was Kearse, because he came down with them all the time until the NFC Championship game,
Yep.
So,
yeah,
I think it'll be interesting, but yeah, to me, it's about injuries, who's going to stay healthy. That's going to give them the best shot. We'll see. Let's move on to topic number 2. So, topic number 2, off-season distractions. So, this came out before they took that 6-week break, but big article from ESPN about how Richard Sherman still holds a grudge, how people don't like Russell Wilson, kind of the same things again and again. But with all these distractions, will the team come together or will they be drifting apart? I think it's kind of a rhetorical question, but Zeb, I'm going to hit you off with this one first.
Well, I don't want to go too cliche on it, but let's face it, winning solves everything, right? Like, if we win, if we come out the gate and we win, and we're playing at our highest capabilities, like none of those things are going to be issues. If we stumble and we're sitting at 4-6 or 5-7 or something like that, like God forbid, I don't think that's going to happen. But if it does, or even maybe, who knows, maybe even like 4-3, somewhere around there, that's when those things are going to show. That's where, if we throw from the 1 yard line and it doesn't work, Richard Sherman might lose his shit again. I don't know, but the fact of the matter is, like, I think none of those things matter if we're playing the best football we can play and we're winning games. And I don't think those things are that big of a deal anyway. Like, it's great. There's great headlines. It's great for stirring up some media and getting people talking, getting the Twitter sphere and the blogoverse rumbling or whatever. But once this team, like you said, everybody's in camp. There's no holdouts. There's no unsigns. None of that stuff. But these guys focus and do what they're really good at, which is being some of the best people in the league at playing football. None of those things should even matter. We shouldn't even have to even talk about them again.
Ross, what about you?
I'm of two minds, kind of. Part of it, like, I'm going to use my own cliche, like, where there's smoke, there's fire comes to mind. I mean, this isn't new, and it's coming out again and again and again. And some of the things, like, you kind of thought it was a certain guy saying it, but then he's no longer on the team, and it's still coming out. And, is there resentment of Russell Wilson and things like this? Like, part of me thinks that there must be something to it, because it's every offseason. It's not even every offseason. So it's just twice a year. If we have a bad stretch, it seems to come out something related or a theme, a variation on the theme of this kind of news. But at the same time, the other idea that comes to my mind is do you know the Rashomon effect? I'm going to be stupid now. Do you know the movie that do you know the movie Rashomon?
Kurosawa's Rashomon?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Kurosawa.
Yeah, so the one thing happened, but how everybody sees it is differently. And I sense that the fact that I really don't think that I think Richard Sherman and Doug Baldwin and Russell Wilson, I think in real life they actually probably get along fine. And I don't think Richard Sherman was being disingenuous or lying when he said, yeah, of course I said you fucking sucked to Russell Wilson when you threw an interception in practice. But that's because, like you said, iron sharpens iron, and we are bros, and we are warriors together. We've gone to war together, and I can say that to him, and it doesn't mean what it would mean if some guy randomly said it to you on the street that you suck. But again, I get that feeling, because this keeps coming out, that somebody in that building, and I started to think more and more, it's not the players. I think it's somebody kind of in the background, doesn't get it. Probably isn't a player or wasn't a player, and just sees it through their own lens, and it's sort of like has a different perception of what's happening.
Ross, I see you. I'm reading between the lines. You're singling out Rocky Seto and Sherman Smith. I hear you.
It wouldn't. You say that in jest, but you know what? Yeah, I kind of see. Sherman Smith was a player, but he among the coaches, he's one of the guys who's most willing to speak out against players or kind of lay it out how he sees it. So I don't think it's him, because I kind of think he would just say things directly and be on the record. I don't know, man. But it feels to me like somebody in that building doesn't really get it. They're seeing events, but they're interpreting it different from how everybody else sees it, and that's where a lot of this is coming from. I don't think it's going to matter.
I think you guys are both right to degrees, because a lot of it plays into, if you win, no one cares. If you're winning Super Bowls, if you're destroying teams, you could have a team of criminals, and the greater public, especially your fans, won't care, because you're on this train, you're trugging along. That's all that really matters. And to your point, Ross, there is definitely someone in the Seahawks currently that does not like the way that Pete Carroll runs things, and I think it speaks loudly of what Pete Carroll has cultivated on this team. and you have yet to see a lot of college coaches that come from his style of freedom and transparency and openness really succeed. The most successful college coaches to come to the NFL have all been authoritative. They've all been kind of dictators in the way that they run their ship. No one's really succeeded as a player's coach in the NFL, and I think to a lot of people that rubs them the wrong way. I remember when Pete Carroll was hired, I was really open to it. I was like, well, I'm not a big USC fan, but I mean, he's won at USC, so I'm willing to give him a chance more so than I was Jim Mora. But I talked to a lot of people, not necessarily big Seahawks fans, but they hated Pete Carroll because he was at USC. They thought he was a cheater, and I could care less because I didn't care about USC enough. But that's what I think is what we're seeing. It's coming up because there are people willing to talk about it, because it gets clicks, it gets people talking, it's something to talk about in a really long off season, and truth be told, Seahawks fans are really, really insecure about it. I mean, you say one bad thing about Seahawks on Twitter, and Seahawks Twitter goes crazy. They will attack that person like crazy. Ross, you should really get on Twitter. You'd be able to see what I'm talking about. But Zeb, I'm sure you've seen that on your feed.
Oh yeah, I've been that.
And that's something I think that from a media standpoint, it's a really kind of creative way to get people to talk about your stuff, like during the off season. Oh, well, let me rehash this old story about how people don't get along. I'll get players to respond. I'll get other teams to respond. I'll get, former GMs, former front office people to respond. And it's a way to get people talking.
But it's not purely that, though, because, man, like Richard Sherman didn't tell a reporter what he said. Somebody told a reporter that Richard Sherman said that quote. Somebody's actually talking.
Yeah, and that's the thing, though. Someone wants to feed that because it generates news, But the thing is, the message that you're hearing consistently from everyone on the Seahawks, from Russell Wilson, Doug Baldwin, Richard Sherman, Michael Bennett, Cam Chancellor, Earl Thomas, they're all saying the same thing. And it's not like, oh, hey, let's get our story straight before we talk to the media. It's like, that's not a big deal. Like whoever told you that, they're not part of this team. Then they're not who we are. Pete Carroll saying the same thing. Russell Wilson saying the same thing with a cheesy grin while he's hosting the Nickelodeon's Kids' Choice Award, throwing footballs in China. But they're all saying the same thing, right? No, exactly. So that's why I think it's kind of a rhetorical question, because on one side, as long as the Seahawks win, it's not going to be a big deal. And the people that are generating this news, they're the people that don't believe in what the Seahawks are doing as it stands. And that's why it continues to come up. Because the story of Richard Sherman, trash talking a quarterback, even if it's in practice, that's not really news to anyone. No one's surprised by that, right?
They are. I think a lot of people who don't get that football players live in a different mentality, they are surprised because it's not something you would do at your job. At your job, if somebody went and made a mistake and screwed up the photocopier, you wouldn't scream at them like, you fucking suck, you don't know how to use the photocopier.
I would make fun of them. I would make fun of them.
Right, you would make fun of them, but you couldn't shout at them. You couldn't call them out like that. You couldn't. If somebody went into a business meeting and didn't get a contract that you were hoping to get, you couldn't call them out for everybody and start swearing at them. That's not how it normally works. And hey, they're supposed to be professionals, but it's a different world. And it's a different mentality. I just don't think that a lot of fans get.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And I think if you're not a big fan of the Seahawks and what they've built, or if you don't buy into what Pete Carroll has done, I don't think you will get that. That's my thought.
Yeah.
Final thoughts?
Zeb.
I got nothing. I think we covered
it. All right. Let's go to the Homer Corner. So, having trouble thinking about a good topic for the Homer Corner this week, so apologies. But I thought this was kind of funny. If you could help out during training camp, what position, group, or drill would you help? So, you want to help out with punt returns, special teams, if you want to work on long snapping, if you want to work on punts, if you want to work on, throwing people the ball. What would you like to do? Ross, you played football. If you could help out in Seahawks training camp, where would you like to help out?
You know what? This is going to sound stupid, but at training camp, they've got the camera tower.
Yeah, why don't you explain that a little bit more?
Okay, so they've got usually two, but at least one tower up there where they I think they're still using actual film because they've got the little thing to bring the film up and out. They're probably converted now to digital. But anyway, there's a tower that's up there to photograph and film all of the practices. They take stills, they take like live action, whatever photography of everything that's happening in movies. And so that guy just sits up there filming it, and then he has his little bucket and he lowers it down, and they immediately process it, and then they send him up more stuff, and he's just up there filming the whole damn thing, and it's good. I would really like to do that. Just sit up there like filming it, because you have the best view on the place. Nobody bothers you. Nobody's talking over you. Nobody's like, because that's the thing when you're sitting down in the burn watching it. Sometimes you get annoying people sitting next to you talking about stupid stuff, and you have some groupies there talking about who's cutest. And I'm here to watch football, man. So I want to be up in the tower with the cameras, filming everything. Leave me alone. Let me just watch it. And then at the end of the day, when everyone else is gone, I come out of the tower and everybody's already gone. And I can go steal stuff out of the locker room to sell on eBay. that's what I want to do. Like, just leave me alone. I'm gonna be up in the tower by myself, and yeah, that's all I want to do. I don't want to help. I don't want to get sweaty. I want to get dirty. It's summertime. I don't want to walk around. Just leave me alone up in the tower.
All right. To set the scene for people that aren't familiar with training camp or haven't been yet, Zeb, this might help you out a little bit. So they do it outside. There's 3 grass fields that they play on. 2 go horizontally and 1 goes vertically. And what that allows is quarterbacks are usually on the far side, away from the berm, where all the fans get to sit and watch. Defense is usually the closest, and they just run drills. So they'll split
What's
out.
that lake? Is that Lake Washington? Lake Union?
On Lake Washington. So they'll split out into wide receivers, they'll split out to DBs, they'll split out to offensive linemen, running backs, quarterbacks, defense, and linebackers. And all do different drills. So each position coach will run drills with them. There's the DJ playing music the whole time, blasting, really high energy music the whole time.
DV1.
What's that?
DJ DV1.
That's what you would do?
No, that's the name of that's.
Oh, the dude that spins? Okay.
DV1, yeah.
So the whole time they're running all these drills, and then there's a whistle, and then that means they change the drill. So usually that means that once they've broken off into positions, the first whistle, they'll line up. So DL and linebackers will get together, and then safeties and corners will get together. Wide receivers and tight ends will get together. Quarterback and offensive line will get together. And then they keep doing this until they get, more and more and more, and then they get to the 7-on-7. So that's how training camp kind of works right now under Pete Carroll. Hopefully that gives at least some people, or in this case maybe Zeb, what would you like to help out with in training camp if given the opportunity?
I probably want to field punts. Can I field punts?
You can totally field punts because John Ryan's got to kick it to somebody.
Yeah, if Rick Tootin's out there just kicking,
I would probably pay $5 to watch that.
And if Lockett's busy, doing wide receiver drills, or whoever is our punt returner, yeah, I'll just stand there and field punts, and then hand them to whoever is going to run them back up to the punter. I'm not going that far.
No, you're not going to throw 50 yards back to him?
No.
So
I don't know. I don't know if that's possible these days.
I have 2 punting stories from training camp that I'd like to share. The first was Golden Tate. So Golden Tate was taking punts back, and this is I think his rookie year. So he was the closest one to the berm, so closest field to people who were watching, and he was fielding punts, and he dropped 3 of them in a row. They just bounced off his chest, they rolled off, or they bounced too high, he just didn't position himself well. And there was some sarcastic boos that came out, and he heard them. He didn't do anything, but then on the last drill, he heard the whistle, and then the last punt came out. He caught it. The crowd cheered. He turned to the crowd and did 3 bows. So I thought that was pretty funny. He took it in good jest. He obviously not a big deal long term. The second punting story was, I think this was last year, Ross. And Ross, you can tell me because I was probably with you at this one. There was a handful of guys taking punts, and they were just lined up, so they got a jugs machine firing the ball into the air, ready to catch the ball. And all of a sudden, Michael Bennett, wearing a hoodie underneath his, skinny shoulder pad uniform, lines up with the team and goes in line to grab a punt. and punt comes in the air, and he drops it.
Yeah.
So kind of
Was it that same practice that somebody dropped two in a row that they were actually considered? I forget who it was now. Somebody was dropping him last year as well.
All I remember is Malcolm Bennett lining up and not being able to field that punt. I mean,
one of the running backs was back. I can't remember who it was. One of the running backs is.
It wasn't Pro-Size because he got injured in that first training camp that we went to.
I forget. It was one of like the People's Choice people maybe, but I don't know. But I forget who it was. But somebody just kept like literally like every single one just like going straight through their hands.
Yeah.
Not even bouncing off the chest, like just going straight through their arms all the way down. It was weird. And they're no longer with the team, unlike Golden Tate. So
yeah,
some people can recover from that.
Yeah, some people can. Not everyone can. If I had the opportunity to help out during training camp, I would want to be next to Pete Carroll. So if that means I'm his whistle holder or I'm the one giving him footballs or doing whatever, I would like to be next to him because I would love to see how he acts with his players. I have a good idea of what that's like, but I think it would be really, really cool opportunity to kind of get a feel of how he interacts with the players, what it really means to be a player's coach on the field with a guy like that. Because all the longtime Seahawks, especially under this current team, they speak so highly of him. And it's not just a case where, oh, he's my coach and, he's looking out for us. It's a real sense that, Pete Carroll does more for him than I think they've seen from other coaches. And I would love to be around that. I'd love to really soak that in and really kind of share, because I think that would be really insightful, not only as a fan of the team, but also like maybe what I could do if I were, to expand my horizons and how I treat other people too.
I was going to ask a kind of a follow-up question sort of related, not on the field, but if you could spend a week in the Seahawks front office, you can either spend it with Pete Carroll or John Schneider, who would you rather be sort of an intern for a week? And would you spend the week sort of like as a fanboy, just going, wow, this is freaking amazing. I got to meet this guy and I got to meet this guy and I got to help out with this. Or would you use it as a week to study and say, hey, what about my own life could I be better at? Can I be a better manager? Can I be a better businessman? Can I be a better human being? Would you take this opportunity to learn, or would you just like enjoy the experience for a week of like just being around like the team? And who would you rather spend it with? Schneider, or would you rather be Schneider or Carroll's intern for a week?
Zeb, you want to take this one first?
That's a tough question. I think Pete's kind of the easier answer because he's more out there and vocal, and we all kind of get his personality a little bit, and it seems like he'd be a cool guy to be around. But Schneider, I don't know. He's obviously good at what he does and highly respected. So more of on the business side of things, he might be the guy to get in with it if you were going to actually consider getting into that kind of work or something that involves that sort of business. I don't know. Hanging around camp, obviously, for at least the first few days would be impossible not to just kind of be mesmerized by everything going on around you and everything you've been watching this team for 30 years, and being there for it, being part of it would be probably almost overwhelming at first, but once you settle in and you realize you're expected to work, that changes everything, right? Like work's work, no matter what you're doing. So I don't know. That's definitely an interesting question. I don't know that I can give a definitive answer, but it's cool to think about.
I think I can give a definitive answer, and I would actually go with Schneider, because I think that if I were to follow someone around with them, I want to know what I could take with that. And I don't think I could be a coach because I don't know enough about football, but I think there's enough business sense that I could follow Schneider and learn from him, because it's about dealing with other kind of professionals, and it's, negotiation, there's, the way that you treat people, there's tactics that I would be really interested to see how he operates, because, like Pete Carroll, he seems like a very open individual, and I feel like that's something that I would like to learn from, because if I followed Pete Carroll around, I would not be able to make heads or tails out of any football sense, because I just don't know enough. But I think with John Schneider, I think I could learn a little bit more and take a lot more from that. I guess, maybe.
Oh yeah,
I think there's so much to learn from both of them, just as people even. I think spending a week with Pete Carroll would be absolutely exhausting. I don't have the energy that I don't think to keep up with him.
Yeah, I think that's probably true.
Like John Snyder, I know he works really, really hard, but like I'm not as naturally. I mean, you guys know me. I'm a bit sarcastic. I'm a bit sarcastic. And I'm a bit sardonic, and I wish I wasn't sometimes, and I wish I was more of a Pete Carroll match. But I just feel like it'd be like I feel like if I was an intern with Pete Carroll for a week, I'd be fired after 2 days for not being like happy enough or something. So I guess I'd have to hang out with like John Schneider in his office. I'd still like love to learn for a week from either of them, but yeah, I think I'd be better off in the office with John. But I'd love to spend it with Pete Carroll, and I wish I was the type of person that could keep up with him.
Yeah. Just take a lot of caffeine, take some speed. I'm sure you could keep up.
Seriously, man, like you have to do so much meth to keep up.
No, you gotta take coke. Can't do meth. Speed helps. I haven't taken.
I'm not wise in the ways of pharmacology. Yeah, so.
Yeah. We'll find something for you.
Yeah.
All right.
I want to be the guy who picks up Pete Carroll's chewed gum.
That's a hard job too.
He just haphazardly tosses it when he's done to wherever, and then somebody has to go get it.
Hey, just sell it on eBay. Pete Carroll chewed gum.
I was gonna say, do you think he's secretly one of those guys that sticks underneath the table?
No.
Like 10 years later, when they move offices, like there's like 100 stuck to the bottom of the table.
He chucks it. He throws it.
I've seen him throw when he's upset, but I wonder what he normally does with it.
Yeah. True. All right, final topic of the day. It's kind of a big question, but it should be pretty simple. What's your outlook for the 2017 Seattle Seahawks? This is, just kind of like we're early in training camp. It hasn't even started yet. Preseason hasn't started yet. But Zeb, what's your outlook for this year? What are you hoping for? What do you want to see?
This is the time of year where, since I was 10 years old, I'm the eternal optimist. There's not a season that goes by, except for maybe when we had the one Jim Mora character as a coach. Other than that, there's not a season that goes by where at the end of July, beginning of August, you ask me how the Seahawks are going to do. I don't tell you that they're going to win the Super Bowl. Because that's how I always feel. Now, there's obviously been plenty of seasons where that was a ridiculous way to feel about things. But under Pete Carroll, with Russell Wilson and the Legion of Boom, and this team that we have had the pleasure of watching over the last 5 or 6 years, I honestly believe that if everybody's healthy and we don't do dumb things to shoot ourselves in the foot, there's no reason why we shouldn't be competing for a championship this season. So that's my outlook. My outlook is championship or bust.
Ross, what about you? What's your outlook for this upcoming year?
Well, I mean, it's July, so like as Eb says, as far as I can tell, we're going 16-0 plus playoffs.
19-0, perfect season.
At least, we may even throw some extra games just to give us a challenge. We win those too. It's like somehow 21-0 or something. It's like no, dude. Well, yeah, sure. We'll do double elimination. No problem.
Play a couple double headers.
Best of three. Okay.
Super Bowl's all of a sudden best of 3.
Right.
Wow.
We beat the Patriots. Tom Brady's like, no, you guys cheat. Okay, well, fine, man. We'll
do it again.
Then we say, all right, we'll make double or nothing.
Yeah. The game's a do-over. I don't know. Intellectually, I guess, being a bit more honest, I have a few nagging reservations that I wonder that at some point we're going to peak and we're going to be on the downside. You have to start thinking about rebuilding, and you always wonder when that time's going to come. And I feel like if it started this year, I'd be surprised, but there's a few things that seem to point to. I think I worry that, for example, Richard Sherman and the whole Legion of Boom, whatever's left of it, I feel like their style of play. There's two. Wait, oh my gosh, let me just back up on my conversation here. I feel like there's two types of star players. There's the star player that just is very businesslike about it, just gets it done year after year after year. It's just Tom Brady's of the world, and Adrian Peterson and Steve Largent back in the day, and Cortez Kennedy and so on. But there's also people who seem to get there from sort of like the eye of the tiger way. And I worry that some of our defense was that type of stars. Where like they're still really, really good, but to be at the absolute top, they needed to sort of have the eye of the tiger going on. And I wonder if like they've lost it. Where like we're really going to be really, really good, but maybe our window is closed and you can't even see that it's closed because they're not quite as hungry. They don't have that edge. That they're not 23 years old and just vicious killers anymore. They're civilized guys who are doing their job really, really well. And maybe that doesn't quite get it done anymore.
Don't you dare tell Cam Chancellor he's not a vicious killer.
I won't do his face.
That's why Ross isn't on Twitter. He won't.
Exactly.
He restrains himself from running into those kind of conversations.
No, do you not sense that just a tiny bit? Is it just me?
I feel you. I understand what you're saying. And that's totally possible, and that's even understandable that a 28 or 29-year-old doesn't have like that bloodlust. You know what I mean? That 23 or a 24-year-old does. So it makes a lot of sense. I just hope that you're wrong.
Yeah. I mean, the Patriots, again, I always bring them up, but they seem to know how to capture it. But that's part of it because like Tom Brady's they're consistent. Everything else kind of turns over. They get those guys who have the eye of the tiger, even like the Corey Dillons of the world who never got to win when they were younger, or they get the new young players who really, really want it now. They seem to really get, and like we're really close. I mean, we're playoff 5 years in a row, winning a playoff game with 5 years in a row. It's only us and the Patriots have done that. I don't know, man. Like our defense looks really good right now, but they don't look like 2012. They don't look like 2013. They don't look like even 2014.
So my counter Ross is boo.
Yeah, I know. I could be wrong. I mean, again,
I don't think it's the issue of you being wrong, but what I think it is this early in the season, everything is open game. Everything is available to be talked about. Nothing can get shut down. So I don't want to say that just because I disagree with your outlook doesn't mean that you're wrong and I'm right. I think it's I don't know if I would say like an unenviable position to be in, because expect the worst, hope for the best, you know? And it's kind of the opposite of what Zeb has said. Zeb is like, we're going to win everything. And I'm somewhere in between. I'm not an eternal optimist and I'm not an eternal pessimist. I'm not saying that either of you guys are being that, but I'm just, for myself, what I'm looking for in the 2017 season is look for us to be competitive, look for us to get a shot. Anything can happen from there. And I like our chances. I like our odds. I like the way that they've constructed this roster. I like all the young guys they've brought in. There's depth that I think we haven't had before. There's roster flexibility, guys that can play multiple positions in the secondary, on the offensive line, which are two areas of huge need. We have full running backs that are on the roster in Collins, Procise, Rawls, and Lacey, that maybe they're not going to be healthy throughout the entire season, but give them a chance, they'll all be good. So my outlook is, it's a combination of both of what you guys are saying. Think that there's a potential for us to continue to be great, and you look at the teams that have consistently been good, it's because they have a head coach, it's because they have a quarterback, and the team is built around that. And we are seeing that transition where Russell Wilson is becoming more and more a component of the Seahawks. He's not doing the same things that he was expected to do in years 1 and 2. He's now doing more. And part of that is by necessity. Part of that is because we don't have the same defense that we had before. I don't think our defense is worse, but I think that the NFL is constantly evolving and teams are figuring out how to beat Seattle. If you look at how Seattle lost in 2015 against the then San Diego Chargers, which is that's a whole nother conversation to remember that they're not in San Diego anymore. But Phillip Rivers beat Seattle by throwing 5-yard and 7-yard passes all game long and just marching down the field. It took him 8 minutes, but he was throwing pinpoint accurate passes. The Seahawks couldn't get in a turnover. They couldn't get a stop, and they just got worn out. And that's kind of been the mold for how teams beat Seattle. You look at teams that traditionally go take shots down the field. They can't do that. They can't do that anymore because Seattle plays over the top. So they just go for this short gain, and that's enough. So,
I mean, even the Super Bowl they won, Peyton Manning set a record for completions, and what's his name? Thomas had like a record for receptions.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's not something new.
It's not something new, but the difference is between that game, the way that Seattle played, you can't play that if you don't have a lead. If you're playing from behind and you need to matriculate yourself down the field like that, it's going to really hurt. And I think that we need to see more of an evolution. So it'll be a big challenge for Richard.
I think it's also one more reason they went out and got lazy, because you want to shorten the game with that power running game as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you just have to be able to just take it over and just run it down a route. But you don't want to have 3-hour games. We want to have 2-hour and 2.5-hour games, really.
Yeah, and if they can play a little bit of that smash mouth, I think we'll get there.
Yeah, and it's not that I don't think that they're still going to be good and that they don't have a chance. I just...
No. You said we're the next Cleveland Browns. I heard the audio. I'm going to roll the tape back.
Yeah. I said 21-0.
That's crazy.
It just, again, I just, and it's not even new. Like, I started off, I didn't express it, but I felt 2 years ago even, it's like, I don't know if that defense looks as hungry. I don't think Earl Thomas is that same Earl Thomas. I don't think Richard Sherman, it's like a classic Rocky 3, like, you did the worst thing you could ever do and you went and got civilized.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Some people blame it on, like, some of them getting married and having kids. I don't even think that was just like, to stay at the top of your game, you have to be super, super, super professional. But I think that some of that, and that's a good thing. But at the same time, you turned your job as a football player turns into like sort of your craft. I worry that you lose some of your edge. That some certain positions, especially, you kind of need that.
We're in savvy veteran mode now. That's what our players have transitioned to.
Exactly, but I sometimes think that to have some of those turnovers, for example, you needed that like 24-year-old Richard Sherman who really, really was convinced he needed to make some big plays to put himself on the map. So he took a few more chances and it paid off for him. Whereas now he plays more technically sound and safer defense, which is overall is better. But the interceptions aren't going to be there, probably because they don't throw at him. But even Earl Thomas playing center fielder, the turnovers aren't there for him as much. He's playing.
How much incentive is the idea that 2-3 more strong seasons out of you and you're a first ballot Hall of Famer?
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it's the path. Like, do you take the path of being really technically sound, or do you take the path of being reckless and awesome and just dominating to get there? I don't know.
I think that what we are seeing is that the Seahawks have not evolved as much on defense as maybe we would like, and that's a big reason why we're not seeing the big turnover. I mean, this is an unprecedented stretch where they led the league in scoring defense for 4 years, and then last year they came in third. So it's not like they've fallen off the face of the earth.
No, not at all.
That. But to your point, it's a fair question to be concerned about, and I think we'll see how it plays out. And I think the young rookies that they've gotten, they look like the mold of players that they want, guys that are hungry, guys that want to prove themselves. Not to say that other rookies don't want to do that, but they're looking for a specific mindset, and I think they've got that this year.
Yeah.
All right. So, final topics. We don't have any fan topics. A couple of questions came in for some other things down the road, but nothing big. But we got a couple of predictions that we're going to forecast here. So we're a week and a half away from the first preseason game, and want to talk about a few predictions for that, such as who's going to be the starting offensive line in that first game on the road. Zeb, do you have any clue who's going to be starting in that first game?
On the offensive line, I mean, I can tell you who I think is going to be our starting offensive line come week 1 of the regular season. I don't know if they're going to start them for the first preseason game, though.
Yeah, hit us up.
Well, let's see. Let me think. I gotta try to remember. So I think Fant is gonna start at left tackle, right? Let me see. I had this written down somewhere. It's gonna be pretty similar to last year, except for add in Jokel, right? I think we probably move Ifedi over to right tackle.
Okay.
Does that sound right?
Yep.
And then Britt stays at center. Where does Jokel go? Left guard?
Left guard is kind of the projection.
Yeah. And then so who's right guard? Chris Gray?
It would be great if we could bring him back.
Remember when he was the worst of our offensive line and we just wanted to find somebody better than him, but he was just good enough to stick around with that offensive line?
I know, right?
But yeah, I don't know. Are all those guys going to start the first preseason game? I don't know. We'll probably end up putting some randos and weirdos out there for some of that game, right?
Yeah. No, for sure. Ross, what about you?
I think Jokel's the only real change, right? It's going to go Fant, Jokel, Britt, Glowinski, Ifedi.
Yeah, Glowinski. That's what I forgot. Yeah.
At least for the first couple series, and then we'll see. I think the offensive line may actually get, first preseason game. Starters usually play 1 or 2 series, but I think our offensive line may get more work just because they have to because Ifedi wasn't starting at the end of last year, Gilliam, right? So they've got to get him back acclimated, and Jokel's new to the team, and Fant, you want to see how he looks in real games after his weight gain and whatever. So. Yeah, I think it'll be those 5, and I think they're going to get a lot of playing time.
Yeah. I'm going to throw a curve and say that they're going to try something very different because I think, like you guys are saying, that usually they get a couple series to try it out. But I think that we're going to see Fant on left tackle. We're going to see Glowinski at left guard. We're going to see Britt at center. We're going to see Ifedi at right guard. And I think we're going to try to see Posick at right tackle. They might swap. They might have Posick at right guard and Ifedi at right tackle. But I think those 5 guys are going to be the ones that are going to see the most playing time. I think Glowinski gets playing time reduced. I think that Jokel. I think they want him to compete for left tackle, but they're gonna let Fant and him have a real competition, which I think will be really interesting.
Well, Jokel's payday looks more like a guard than a tackle, doesn't it?
It does, but I mean, it's still he's the most expensive lineman that they have on the roster right now. So.
And Ifedi, I kind of think I get what you're saying, but I think they want him. They're going to give him every opportunity to win the right tackle position because was he first round last year?
He was the tail end of the first round.
Right, so you can't give up on him at that position after a year.
Right,
but I think how do you Posick?
Posick, Ethan Posick.
Maybe right guard.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. All right.
We'll see.
Second prediction.
We should go with 6 offensive linemen.
Yeah.
Just forget about the tight end. Put 6 guys out there.
Play jumbo package right out of the gate.
Yeah.
All right, who's going to score the first touchdown?
I'm going to say Eddie Lacy.
Running play to Eddie Lacy. Ross?
Yeah. Are we talking preseason still?
We're talking about first preseason game. Who's going to score the first touchdown?
I see us putting together a good, old-fashioned 8 to 10 play drive, and Eddie Lacy busting one in there.
No, it's gonna be Richard Sherman.
Richard Sherman.
Pick 6.
Oh,
first play.
Zeb is Ross already took away the second prediction of first turnover. That's okay. So I'm going to say the first touchdown is going to be a pass from Russell Wilson to Jermaine Kearse. Jermaine Kearse is going to be lost in the secondary against Kansas City. He's going to find his way, and they're going to throw a 50-50 ball, which he's going to come down with. Because why not try and find a way to build confidence and show people that we can go deep, than throwing the ball up to a guy like Jermaine Kearse again.
Okay.
All right, so Ross already answered who's going to get the first turnover, which is Richard Sherman, unless he wants to take someone else. Zeb, do you have any predictions?
Ataya Rubin.
Ataya Rubin.
Fumble recovery.
Nice.
Right in the trenches. It's gonna be one of those ones where nobody's sure exactly what happened until you see the real super slow-mo replay and see the ball squeak out there and ends up in his arms at the bottom of the pile.
Yeah.
Yep. Book it. Take that to the bank.
Ross, you sticking with Richard Sherman, or is someone else going to get another?
I just really, I want to see it, so I'm willing it to happen.
He's not hungry, but he's going to get it. That's what Ross is saying.
I'm saying I want to be wrong, man. It's like aliens. Aliens. I don't believe in aliens, but I want to be wrong.
I'm going to go on the opposite side. I think that the Chiefs are going to try and go deep. They're going to try and trust out Earl Thomas, and Earl Thomas is going to come in with the first turnover.
Nice. You think Earl Thomas is going to play in the first preseason game?
I think that Kansas City, they might try something different. Maybe Mahomes gets a snap and the defense plays a little bit longer, and they're going to try something deep. They want to test out that big arm that they got, and I think that a rookie's going to try and test Earl Thomas and come out on the wrong side.
Okay, but is for real? Like Earl's going to play in the first preseason game? Is he that ready to go?
I think he will force his way into playing.
Okay, nice.
That's my gut feeling.
News. That makes me happy because I was worried about him.
Yeah.
For football, but also just worried about him because he just seems like a super nice dude, and it sucks that he got hurt so bad.
True.
Very true.
True funk.
All right, well, that's the fan table. Thank you for joining us. We're going to give a couple shout-outs. Zeb, shout-outs.
Well, most importantly, check out hawkscast.com. hawkscast.com. Come check out the forum. Come join in on the conversation. Add your 2 cents and watch me tear you apart.
And be careful, that's Hawks with an S. Hawkscast.
That's why.
If you go to hawkscast.com, you'll end up at like JJ Harwood.
Yeah, but you'll find out quickly that you've made that error.
Yeah.
Go to triplebpodcast.com and listen to us be idiots and talk about movies and TV and stuff. And check out zebdak.com, zebdak.com if you want to book recording time in Portland, Oregon, which I know you do.
Yeah.
Ross, shout-outs.
Shout out to my taxi driver yesterday who found me a fast way of getting to Shibuya. That was pretty awesome. And that's about it.
All right.
Nice.
So thank you for checking us out. Definitely check out our new website, forum.hawkscast.com and hawkscast.com. Lots of opportunity for you to shop, not only Seahawks, but other forms of entertainment. I want to thank you all for stopping by. It has been a pleasure.
If you ask Zeb nicely, he will send you some pretty hot pictures of Charlie Whitehurst.
Sure will.
Yes, Charlie Whitehurst, also known as Clipboard Jesus.
He has the largest collection of sexy Charlie Whitehurst photos on the West Coast.
Thank God for Google. Hey, shout out to my brother Joe Guns too, by the way. He tunes in all the time, so much love to you, little bro.
Yes, thank you to all the people that do check us out, whether it's on SoundCloud or on YouTube and our website. But I am Sam, they are Zeb and Ross, and we got the Seahawks fan table. Thank you for checking us out.
Thank you.
Hawks.